Collaboration versus competition, the blessing of being in a Christian community beyond our school walls. Up next. Well, welcome back to the CHA Connect podcast. It's been a few weeks since we have broadcast our podcast, and I hope all of you are having a wonderful summer. We sure are. You know, I mentioned a while back that from time to time we have visitors drop by Chapel Hill Academy, and today we have a very special guest with us. We have Joanna Richter from the Collaborative, and we'll hear more about this organization as we talk with Joanna, but I have to say, welcome.
Thank
It's great
you.
to have
I'm
you.
excited to be here.
You know, and I knew Joanna starting way back in 2006. I was a professor at Crown College, and she was in her senior year of college student teaching.
Yeah.
And I recall working together with your placement and some of the things that we were doing at Crown. So it's so fun that we have had time over the years to reconnect at different leadership summits. You've been a part of many different schools. And so let's hear a bit about your background since that graduation and what's brought you here today with the Collaborative.
Absolutely. So after I graduated from Crown, I ended up teaching at Heritage Christian Academy in Maple Grove, and had the opportunity to teach first grade there, and then I moved into fifth grade, and after 10 years there, actually went to Woodbury and was the lower school principal at New Life Academy and did that for 3 years. And then the Lord called me back to the Maple Grove area, and I went to Maranatha Christian Academy and got to leave my little people in the world and move into the upper school. And so I started there in 2019 as the college and career director. And then COVID happened and moved into upper school principal, and just wrapped up my time there this summer as the academic programming director. So I've been around Christian education for about 20 years.
Yeah, a long time. And you have seen it all. You have seen the littles all the way through college and career.
Yeah.
That is a span of many different age levels. Do you have a favorite, or do you have things that stand out that kind of you loved?
I thought I would really miss the littles when I moved into upper school. And I remember another colleague just saying to me, "You're going to love the high schoolers." And I was like, okay. And I did. It's amazing how you end up loving whatever age level you're in. I still think back to where I started in first grade, and I loved my first graders. So it's hard for me to pick my favorite, but
a true educator would say that. So that's great.
Yeah.
Now you are all of a sudden in a whole new area, but all still connected to education, very much so. And so the Collaborative came to my attention just a few months ago when I received an email from you and some other names that I recognized from Crown. But can you tell us about the Collaborative and what this organization is all about?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the Collaborative really began in 2021 with just a few events. The co-leaders of the Collaborative, Angela and Amanda, actually had a desire to bring together Christian ed leaders and help them to see that they're not alone in this work. Sometimes I think we all work in our own little silos at our Christian schools, and we're trying to tackle some of the same problems, and they just saw that we could be better together. And so it started as events in 2021, and then over the course of time, just different collaborative efforts and the Lord leading, we launched as a nonprofit in 2024. And so we have kind of 3 different branches for the Collaborative, where we support Christian schools. We still host events, and then we have a mastermind cohort, which is made up of Christian ed leaders. We gather together monthly to just support and be sharpened by one another. And then we have member schools, which is completely free for Christian schools to join, but really just an opportunity for them to have access to resources and services to support the work that they're doing at their schools.
Yeah, it's been just amazing for me to start the process of being involved with the Collaborative. And in Christian education, it can feel sometimes isolating because a small school with one head of school or one principal can feel alone. And having this network of people who are all in it for the same purpose, the ministry aspect, and can work together, pray for one another, and just share resources.
Absolutely.
And I'll also say that sometimes people feel like Christian schools are in competition, but we're not. We
Yes,
want to support and expand Christian education everywhere. And
absolutely.
so it's wonderful to have this opportunity to share the ministry with one another and to inspire one another in those times when we need it.
Right. Yeah. And I so appreciate you saying that. When I stepped into my lower school principal role, there was a principal at another Christian school who called me and he's like, "Congratulations on your new role.
Oh,
And I just want you to know, like, I'm in your corner. Here's
mm,
my cell number." And that was so impactful for me
yeah.
because I was looking around, I'm like, okay, I've got this upper school principal here, I've got this early ed director, but who are my
Yeah.
lower school people that I can
Mhm,
collaborate with and brand new in my role when I need advice or
mhm,
somebody just to listen and so I have felt the same
mhm.
being in leadership. It can be lonely at times, but
Yeah.
yeah, the collaborative is hoping to change that narrative a little bit.
Right. And also offering sort of a centralized hub where professional
Yes.
development and training can take place. I know you receive feedback of, what are schools looking for? What are
Yeah.
schools needing? And you can plan some specific speakers, some trainers, and invite all kinds of people from different schools to receive that training, which is so beneficial, kind
Yeah.
of sharing the resource.
Yeah.
How did that whole vision start?
Yeah, that's a great question. So actually, a group of kind of Christian leaders came together, and Angela and Amanda, under their for-profit business Incubate to Innovate, kind of
Mhm,
led some design sprints and had some conversations about what are Christian schools needing.
mhm,
And from the a couple meetings and conversations, there were really 5 areas that bubbled up.
mhm,
One of the big ones that we have sought to really meet the need is providing professional development for our Christian education teachers who are trying
mhm,
to maintain their license,
mhm,
specifically in Minnesota, because we have a lot of requirements, and
mhm,
sometimes it feels like those requirements are hard to meet for our Christian schools.
mhm,
And so that was a big piece, was to make sure that we could provide those CEU resources that they needed.
mhm,
We also heard that operations is a big need for Christian schools, and that's a big bucket.
mhm.
And so we seek to, provide resources that way, as well as like, how do we service students with various learning needs? And
Mhm.
so we have a service really dedicated to this. And we don't do all the leading. We find people in these Christian schools
Yeah,
who are doing these things, and they're the people who are leading these services. So
yeah.
that's the other beautiful thing, is
Right.
it truly is a collaborative effort
Mhm.
where everyone is kind of playing in their strengths.
That's so great and so helpful. And one thing I thought about as you were sharing is oftentimes I get the question with licensure.
Mm.
Sometimes parents are wondering, how is the state changing the requirements regarding Christian teachers? Are we having to expect teachers to get CEUs that are maybe out of alignment and
Mm.
so forth? How do you respond, or how would you share where we're at as a state with regard to teacher licensure and relicensure?
Yes, that's a big question. I think for those of us who are Christians and who are passionate about what we do each day, it's important for us to maintain that license. And
Yes.
yet, the state, specifically Minnesota, because I've researched other states, and it's very different to maintain
Mhm.
your teaching license. But because there are some key areas that we have to have training in, really looking for, and it's, I don't know about you, but in my past I had to kind of hunt and peck for these
Mhm.
resources that would meet these requirements,
Mhm.
but wouldn't be against who I am as a Christian and what my school represents. And so um, I think maintaining our license is important because it continues to raise the bar that
Mhm.
we're doing a good job in education, which is important for our Christian schools. But then also being able to keep it missional is so key. And so that's where we reached out to people in the collaborative, and we're like, who has an excellent reading background? Because that's
Yes.
the one that they have to be able to,
Mhm.
kind of check the box on. And so we have found people within the community who have created these webinars
Mhm.
for teachers to watch and download the CEU
Yeah.
certificate so they can maintain that license.
That's great and so needed. We have found that we also have really important training that can still fit the mold of what we're
Yes.
needing to do, but have that faith-based spin on it that still works well with our
Yes.
our staff, our
Yeah.
teacher relationship. And to your point, it is so important to maintain that license.
Hmm.
The teachers have worked hard to achieve it,
Yes.
And there is some very good training that they are getting
Yep.
to get those 120 clock hours
Yep.
every 5
Every
years.
5 years.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Well, great. What are some highlights that are coming up at the collaborative that would be interesting for our families to know that it's out there and available for educators and Christian education to receive?
Yes, our big highlight right now is August 6th. We have an event happening in Edina, Minnesota, and we have about 130 Christian ed leaders signed up to come, and it's growing daily, it feels like. But we're super excited. We're bringing in a friend of mine. His name is Jim McKenzie, and he was a head of school down in Florida for years, but he's going to come and share about unreasonable hospitality. And we just feel like this topic covers all areas of our Christian schools, because every place that our students and our families go, we can look at our school community and ask ourselves, how are we engaging them? How are we greeting them at the front door? How are we ensuring that they feel like this is their community, and really elevating the experience? And so that's a big event that we have coming up. We're really preparing for that, and we're excited about that opportunity. And then we also will have lunch and learns, and these are virtual events from usually they're like 12 to 12:30, and we do those once a month. And so we invite different speakers to come in and share on different topics, and we are the facilitators, and we just get to bring that to folks, and that is an opportunity to reach beyond Minnesota, right? There's some schools that are part of the collaborative that are not in Minnesota, and so we want to be intentional. Yeah, it is exciting, and we just want to be intentional with helping them also feel like they can be part of the collaborative as well.
Great. As you work with schools and leaders, what are you hearing that maybe parents are really searching for or looking for in their Christian school? What are the most important elements that you hear about needing to support?
I think staying missional is huge, right? If a family is looking for Christian education, they want to make sure that it's solid on God's word. And also a piece with that is really excellent academics. And I think for a while in Christian ed, it felt like if you had a great, if you were really missional and in the word, sometimes the academics felt like they were falling behind. And I feel like that narrative is also shifting, where we're realizing, no, we can be excellent in both.
Right.
The Lord calls us to be excellent. So we get that opportunity. So I hear that a lot. More recently, I hear that families want a little bit of flexibility in their education opportunities. I think since COVID, some work environments have gone more flexible, and so families want to be able to travel. And so what does that look like? Are Christian schools looking at creating online schools or hybrid school opportunities, which can create a struggle for us to consider a different way of doing things. But I have seen that a lot since COVID.
Just educational options, I think, are becoming more and more prevalent. There are many out there.
Yeah.
And every family has different children with different needs and different styles. So the beauty is that there's options for families.
Absolutely.
And we want that for families. We don't want families to feel like they're constricted or boxed into something that doesn't feel right. Most important thing is they're getting a Christian education, our perspective.
Yeah.
So if they can find that in a way that fits their family, then that's the plan God has for them, and we really support that and honor that. So that makes sense that you've been hearing that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What are some things that schools are focusing on these days, really training teachers in specific areas to prepare for the next year? Are you hearing any topics?
It's a good question. I think one of the big things we hear is just the diverse learning needs that our schools are facing with students coming in, and students who have been in their school environments, right? How are we servicing their needs? What is it that they need? And sometimes it's the overachievers, the high end of students who are feeling like they need a little more challenge, and so how are we meeting their academic needs? And then we also have the other end of the spectrum too. And so I think that's something that as an educator, I know I was taught in college how to differentiate, right? And so those are just things that education is always looking at, is how can we best meet the needs of our students. And I think from Christian education perspective, we have the amazing opportunity to look at it as, they're an image bearer of Christ. And so when we want to really hone in and support that student, we get the opportunity to do that, from the lens of they are representing Christ, and we don't know what he's calling them to do, but we want to prepare that student for whatever he is calling them to.
Yeah, I love that, prepare and equip
Yes.
versus guard and protect. Sometimes
Mhm.
people are looking for different environments to protect and keep them from, but we want to prepare and equip them
Yes.
for the calling that God has on their
Yeah,
life. So that's an
absolutely.
honor to be able to be part of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a fun question for you.
Okay.
This is kind of a leadership question. You were a former principal,
Mm-hmm.
and as you look back now, you've stepped away from that particular role and you're going to be
Mm-hmm.
involved in lots of different ways with leaders.
Yeah.
What's a lesson that you maybe learned later on that you wish you would have learned earlier, or that you could pass along to someone
Yeah.
that's just starting out as a principal somewhere out there?
That's a great question. I have just been amazed at just the complexities of leading a school. It is very complex all the time, and you weigh heavily the decisions that you have to make, and you prayerfully consider the requests that come your way, and there's just so many things that you're carrying and navigating. And I think, as I reflect back, sometimes I think I moved too quickly from one thing to the next because there were so many things on my plate. And so just enjoying the moments of being with your colleagues and being with your students, and prayerfully considering those decisions that you made. And I think that's a time where, for me as a leader, I know I relied on the Lord, like, because you have to. You're working with people and with children, and you're doing your best to lead, but it's a big task. And so just take time to reflect and to learn and to sit with the Lord and let him guide you. And you don't have to zero out your inbox every day with your emails, things like that. Take time for what's important.
That's great advice, and I resonate with that. I remember 14 years ago,
Yes.
starting off in a leadership role here at Chapel Hill, and having the tasks like, got to get this
Yes.
done and this done and this done and this done. And I think a leader really needs to make sure that they're doing their job, but also being with people, connecting,
Yes.
being present, and making that connection with our families, with our children, with our staff, and just having that relationship.
Yeah.
I think that's really important for cultivating an environment that feels warm, connected, close, and unified.
Yeah.
And so that's something that over time, I think you
Yep.
kind of learn, because at the beginning you're kind of, I got to do a good job, I got to get these things
Yeah.
done. And you kind of maybe miss a little bit of that sweetness of the relationship. So that would be my advice as well, similar to yours.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great.
Absolutely.
Last question. As leaders, we often have so many things on our plate, on our minds, caring for our school, caring for the kids. And I know for myself, I lack sleep because of it. Things keep me up at night. I pray, I think, I plan. What is it that keeps you up at night with regard to schools? Because for me, it's a lot about the school and wanting to caretake and make sure that we're where we need to be. What keeps you up at night?
Yeah. I would say to answer this question, it's kind of twofold. The first one is really more focused on students, and their spiritual formation and growth in our schools. And, we set out as Christian educators with really great missions and hearts to really raise these young ones, or even older ones, in the ways of the word and in the gospel. And, I often pray and think about my former students, and are they walking with the Lord today? And at the end of the day, it is their decision, and I know that. And yet we want to just create the environment where they have the most opportunities to really see the Lord work in their lives. And so I think often of my former students and pray for them.
Beautiful. I love that.
Yeah. And then the other one is, really Christian leaders like yourself, because I've been in the role and I know the burden and the weight that it is and the beautiful blessing that it is. I think often of of you all and what you're carrying, and how can we at the collaborative support you, right? Our heart is not to be another burden, but what can we do to support you? And I try to put myself in your shoes, and how can we come alongside them and just love on them and care for them well. And I know there's also a lot of transitions that happen in leadership at Christian schools. So what is it that we can do to support these new leaders in the role as well, and things like that?
Yeah. I think that all of this is so important for families to know that the collaborative exists. There is a support network for Christian education to be working together, praying for one another,
Absolutely.
supportive of every Christian school that is biblically sound, biblically based, developing children to know and love the Lord. So thank you for all the work that you do and the collaborative. I'm excited to continue learning more about the organization, being part of that.
Yeah,
I
we're
appreciate
excited.
all those efforts. And thanks for stopping by today.
Absolutely.
It's been great having you.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Well, a special thanks to Joanna Richter from the Collaborative and her visit with me at Chapel Hill today. It has been wonderful to learn more about the Collaborative and what that means for Christian education and Christian leadership across our state. If you're a Christian school educator and you'd like to learn more, you can click the link below and find out how you can become a participant. It'd be fun to connect with you. In the meantime, have a great couple of weeks. We'll be back soon, but remember to like and subscribe this podcast. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.